Right. Okay, so I just want to point out some of the stuff on the Stratos just before I put it aside. So this is the back side of it, and you've got the essential straps, hip belt. I never use the pockets on any pack. They're always too small, and I've never figured out to put anything in them. There's the two mesh pockets. They're really deep, pretty cool, and you can see that there's the mesh backing. Hopefully you can see that anyway. There's a standard lid with the pockets, another pocket inside, and a little key thing. That's detachable lid. It's a top loader, pretty big. I like the fact that it's got a nicely coloured inside. That's the pouch, and there's tensioner straps holding it on. That's the pouch, and then there's a pocket in the front, and that's the bottom. So I'm not really intending to do a high-tech video. And then there's a waterproof thing in the bottom zip pocket, rain cover, and that's really it. And that's been absolutely brilliant. I've had that for quite a few years, and it's done quite a few miles. So and it's going to stay as part of my kit. So the next thing, pull this out, and I'm not going to empty these out. So this is empty because the possible pouch is there, but that's a jet boil, knife, fork and spoon. I use these Platypus 1 litre bottles. They've got a little tab, which you might have just noticed, and they've got a flip top lid which clips there, and they hold a litre of water, and they come in different sizes. So I've got a few of these, and I really like them because you can fold them up when they're empty and just tuck them away. And it just helps me carrying the water. I like to have lots of smaller bags rather than one big bag as well. So these are just some Montane gaiters. I've only used them once or twice. I bought them because a bit of hiking that I was doing, there was a little bit of gorse and long grass and things, and it was getting in my socks and going into my shoes. And also at the time I was wearing a different set of trousers, not the Pt.2 Pros, and when I was crossing small streams and things, the shoes were filling up with water, and I didn't want to put waterproof socks on. So one of the things I found with gaiters is that if you put them on and pull them over, and you've got some waterproof shoes, they you can walk through shallow streams and that at a fairly high pace, like you're trying to walk on top of water, and they stop the water from going inside the shoe and going down. So you can, if you get the technique right, you can get across with keeping dry feet. It's my second water bottle. This is a outdoor research hat. I like it because it folds up and I can scrunch it down. It's my lightweight hiking hat, and it's kind of like waterproof and sweat proof and things. But I do have an Australian leather hat of the same shape. Might be wearing it in some of my older videos. I use that for fishing, and I use it in cold weather, and I've also waterproofed it as well. The leather hat has the band around the inside, and when you're wearing it and you're sweating and walking, what happens with the hat, you can tilt it slightly backwards, and the sweat will go down to the back and go down your back rather than into your eyes. So that's why I wear one of those hats. The other thing about hats is in New Zealand, and I've mentioned this before, we have extremely high UV rates, much more than what you get in Europe. The reason I'm sitting under the shade at the moment doing this video is because if I sit in the sun, you're looking at about 5 to 10 minutes burn time at the moment, and I didn't really want to put long sleeve clothes on. So, and then I've got some mechanics gloves, I've had these for ages. They're kind of like gardening gloves, but I just use them for hiking. These are my heavy duty gloves, and for when I'm doing bushcraft and, you know, picking up wood and making things and digging holes and building shelters and all of that stuff, so more heavy duty. That's my DD tarp. It packs down really, really small. I think I've shown this before. So that's the packing size with the pegs, and that's the length of aluminium pegs, so it's the same size. This is really, really good. It's close to the ground. You've seen it in other videos. I've got the pegs tied to it because this bag stays on the tarp, and you can just put the empty peg bag inside so you don't lose it. That's that. And then the last of all of them is my bivvy. So that's the length of the pole there, so that's how small that goes down. You could probably take the poles out, put them somewhere else, and scrunch this down to about half of what it is, but it doesn't need it. And then the bag itself, it's got some pouches in the end. I think I've got a spare gas bottle in there. And normally I've got some Montane waterproof trousers that go in there as well. And then I often just use either my Pt.2 jacket. It's the main hiking jacket if I'm wearing one, or I'm just wearing a long sleeved khaki drill shirt that's UV protective. So this is the main one. I'm not going to open all of the pouches because all of the equipment that you've probably seen, I will empty it out. So in the lid I've got some body glide hiking stuff. I've got my pole, which actually should be in there. So that peg is for the end of the bush cocoon. It's just to keep it up, stop it sitting down on my feet. Then I've got some outdoor research, I think, just really lightweight but heavy duty gloves. That is left over from winter time when I'm up in the snow level, or just below the snow line. It's probably down 0 degrees or something, and I just keep those on my hands, keep my hands warm. Then I've got Leatherman, not sure what it was, I got it as a free gift. It's the blue one. So I hardly ever use these things, but I do carry it. Sod's Law says the one time that I don't carry it is when I'll need it. And then I've got, which I do use quite a lot, that's a mower knife. I use that quite a lot fishing as well. And then I've got a saw. On the rare occasions I do use a saw, usually if I'm trying to make a shelter or something, or make a fishing pole or something like that. Haven't just given the lecture on burning things. And that's a Swiss Army knife. They go on my belt, but I keep them in here in case I put them somewhere safe and can't find them again. And then I've got just a neck tube, similar to a buff, but this one's slightly lighter. And that's really it. Now in this pouch is a MSR stove, and I've got a large bottle, and it's in a pot holder, and tin can and another gas bottle in there. That's just for sizing, show how much it would be. This is actually a gas stove from another cooking system, but I don't use open flames, so or fuel stoves or things, those kind of things. And then there's my heavy duty medical pack. So I carry a bigger medical pack, and I think I've said this before, But the boo-boo pouch is fine for day walks, if you just cut yourself or something like that, making dinner. Or once I cut myself quite badly on a blade of grass when I was sitting down on the side of a riverbank, so I had to patch that up. Although for those kind of things I usually just get a blade of grass and wind it around my finger and tie it up. That does put a bit of sulphur on it. But the medical pouch is not about just treating me, it's about treating other people, which I think is important. A lot of people just carry enough, stuff for themselves, but where I am, it's bush country, and there are people around, and you slip down the side of a hill or fall over or something like that, and you've got a broken arm or something in your eye, or it's hunting season, which we don't typically, I don't expect to ever come across that kind of injury, but you need to, I've got a splint in there, I've got eye kits in there, I've got various types of potions and quick clot and various other bits and pieces, and sealant pads for for serious wounds and things. Few more things I would need to get in there, and also what I need to do at some stage is just go back and revisit some training on how to use some of that equipment, because its knowledge is a bit stale. Now, getting into the pouch, that's my possibles pouch. So in there's water filtration, my diary hiking diary that I write in all of the time, my compass, there's a fire starting kit in there, steel, toilet rolls, digging trowel, just bits and pieces that you just need to carry around, and I'm always in there quite a lot, getting things in and out. So I prefer to keep this either in the lid or on the outside, so that's where that is for. Now the other thing that would probably go here would be food, bits and pieces, rather than keep the food inside. We don't have bears or anything else in this country, or any snakes or any dangerous animals and things that you have to worry about. I think the worst case you'd ever get in New Zealand is being meowed at by a wild cat, feral cat, or barked at by a dog. We don't have dangerous animals here. So, and on the east coast as well, we don't have midges, and we don't have sandflies, and we don't have all of that stuff. So you don't have to worry about that so much. On the west coast of the South Island, though, we do have sandflies, and they're big, hungry ones, and so you do have to worry about that one. A few mosquitoes as well. So in the top, I don't know why I put this in here, but this is my little fluffy eye thing. So when you're out in the wilderness and you're sleeping under a tarp, it gets light here at about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and it doesn't get dark till 10:30 at night. So if you want a good night's sleep, cover your eyes up, and that's why I've got that. Don't know where I got it from. This is my wash and shaving kit. So there's lightweight soaps and toothpaste and shaving razor and comb and everything and all of that stuff. That's my sleeping mat, which is the classical Thermarest Extreme. That's the heavy duty one. I do kind of like the bigger one. I will get a wider one one day, so this will get downgraded. And then this is my jungle blanket, and this is my equivalent of a sleeping bag and a woolly blanket. The woolly blanket would go in the motorcycle kit, and so would the sleeping bag, which is not here. It's drying out after being washed. But the jungle blanket is all I use, summer and winter. Now there's a bit of logic behind that. Basically, what I do is I use a very, very small tent with a little air pocket, smallest air pocket as possible, and that's easy and quick to warm up with the body temperature. It does mean you have to do a bit of exercise before going to bed to warm things up, and it's good. I find it good down to probably about 0 degrees, maybe a little bit colder than that. Worst case scenario, what I tend to do is sleep in the clothes, layer up in the clothes and then layer up on the thing, and as long as you kind of keep yourself off the ground somehow, you're pretty good. In the bivvy I don't use a mat, I just sleep solid. Now if I'm just using the tarp and not the bivvy, then I'll just probably have my Pt.2 Pro jacket and trousers on and my boots on, and in the motorcycle, if I was doing the same thing, I would just have my leather jacket and my riding trousers on, and I'd just put the helmet on and shut the visor to keep the bugs out, and just sleep on the ground, or against a bank or something like that. So I'm not one of these people that need fancy stuff for good night's sleep. However, one of the long-term purchases I would like to make for the motorcycle thing is a chair one, Helinox I think it is, and maybe a cot one for use with the tarp, and I'll explain a little bit about that in a bit. So there's my pillow. Again, don't really need it. And then that's a DD tarp. That's I think the 9x9 or 3x3 metre, so 9x9 feet. And that I found is really great on its own. It's quite heavy. It's a kg all up with the pegs and everything. 790 grams it says on the front, but kg close enough. And what I tend to do, and you've seen me do it in some of the videos, I put the tent up and then use this as a shelter to sit under, because the two tents are too small to sit under. And you can get these close to the ground and use them as windbreaks, although the Tarp 5 is a much better, I found, using it with the wind, because it's much smaller in size and it catches the wind less. And then there's my Acto tent, and I've got the poles in it, so the poles are there, and then the Acto tent is squished down to there, remembering that there's the two metal bars on each end that can't be squished down very far. So the poles would probably come out and go into a pouch, and that would give me more space inside of the bag. The bag, by the way, is with sleeping gear and all of that sleeping gear in it, just shoved in. It was just on 3/4 full. But the other night when I packed it up with the same thing and did a little bit more organising, it was half full, so it gives you an idea. That I chucked in there. That's a thermarest reactor. I kind of like this. This is a sleeping bag if I needed one. And also the other thing I've got, there's a bigger one of these that's much warmer, and you can layer them together, and with the jungle blanket you end up with the very equivalent to a sleeping bag. Although I would say that probably with the three things put together, you're almost looking at the same bulk as a sleeping bag anyway. So it's horses for courses. And then this is a Lux footprint. I did have a Lux TP tent which got retired. Flawless, mainly because it kept flooding. When we get rain here, we get rain, and it can fill up a tent. So one of the other things I want to get for the Tarp 5 is a bathtub floor, which I've got my eye on one for that very purpose. And then I've got the kitchen table, not the kitchen sink, but the kitchen table. So it's an aluminium foldable table, and that actually is for use with the motorcycle camping. But when I'm using the tarp and you're sitting under the tarp, it's good to have something to put things on, especially electronics, keep them off the ground. And then the other thing that I've got is the water bladder, which is in the back of the pack already. Poles, and that's it. And then the other thing is in the lid, which many of the other reviews of this bag have done, is the rain pouch, which is in its own thing, which is pretty cool. That one, the Osprey one, was green. So that's really that bag, and just turning it around for those who haven't seen. So when this came, it came in a box, in a plastic bag. The box, the cats are using it as a toy. I've put a little tunnel into it and they're playing around with it, and the bag has gone into the recycling. But so it came all folded up and all nice, neatly folded and everything, and all I did is undid it and put it on, and strangely enough it fit me great. I didn't have to adjust it. I have actually just moved this down a bit, and there is a little knack to it. So you unclip the little clip here, you adjust it, and then what you have to do is put your fingers underneath the clip. There's a special way of holding it, and then you just push the clip in. If you don't hold it then it's the way the tensioner system works, then it can be a nightmare. But once you get the little knack, it's a 30-second job. So what it is actually a strap that runs around and then back up again. So what you're doing is sliding the strap up and down when you move these up and down. I think it goes up to about 56 centimeters or something like that. I don't know how low it goes. There are other reviews, and I like these two straps here. They really do make a difference. You can feel them inside of the pack and that. And the way it fits me, so I've got these angled, so this is down on for me it's down on a 45-degree angle, which is good. So I've got these so that the weight is on my hip. I had these really loose, and the bag sat back and it just balanced nicely, and you could stand up and you weren't being pulled back and you weren't being pushed forward. And when I didn't have the pouches on, it wasn't being pulled sideways either. So that works really well. So I've dropped it down a bit, and I've just put a little bit more load on my shoulders than on the hip belt. The hip belt doesn't come all the way around, it comes sort of like sideways, and then you've got the strap that actually comes over, and that's really good because I've got it sitting on my hips because I wear belts and that kind of thing, and so I didn't want this sitting over the top of the belt, so that's pretty good. Works really nicely in terms of that. When I eventually do some hiking with it, probably after the Christmas period, I will give a bigger review of what works and what doesn't. And when I get the mods on, again, I'll review those and see what works. So, just out of interest, the Stratos bag is 2 kilograms, and this bag is about 2 kilograms, thereabouts, and the total loadout with everything that I took out of it took it up to 13 kilograms, and with the 3 kilograms of water that I would carry, probably 5 kilograms more closely if it's a multi-day. You're looking around 16 kilograms, and that's set comfortably on my hips and on my back without causing too much undue grief. So the last part is this. Now there's not much in here, so the tent obviously there, the tarp would go in there, and the footprint would go in there, and anything else waterproof would go in the tent bag, and that goes between this Ventura bag. The Ventura bag has an extender, so it comes up to here. I don't use the side pockets because they're quite difficult to get your hands into. And all I've got in here is the jet boil pot and frying pan, and I'll put those down there. And then just dry bags, food bag, some rope, and my Platypus 2-litre bottle, because everything else basically is sitting there. So the Givey bags, they open up quite wide. These are quite low, and they don't pick up the wind very much, and I've had them for ages, and they're just throw over bags, but I tend to, the good thing about this is they've got metal loops, and I tend to wire them onto my panniers so that they don't move around. So I typically put tools in one side, bits and pieces, and then cooking material and food and stuff in the other. These are actually really good to get into, and then this is just bedding and tent stuff, and then food and anything else. And then I've got another bag if I do need it. for luxuries. I typically take a chair which goes underneath this, and hence the cot one and the thing. And the other thing that I want to do is when you're motorcycle camping, you need a lot of gear on. There's your cold weather gear. I wear a leather jacket, and I've got a rain suit, and you've seen that I wear the Motor Girl leggings in the summer, and then I've got some Dragon jeans and obviously the rain suit over the top of that for the winter time, and then I've got my leather boots and all of that kit, and then your helmet and neck warmers and gloves and things. So when it's hammering it down with rain, having a micro tent is not so good. It's great if it's hammering it down with rain and you can put the tarp up, but if it's really, really windy and the tarp's not a good idea, then you've got a little bit of a problem, because you're going to get soaked trying to get your kit off. And again, in the morning, if it's raining and you're trying to get your kit on, you're going to get wet, and then you get condensation and fogging and all of the other things. So what I'm going to do is, I've got my eye on the Anaris tent, so from Hillyberg. That's more of a 2-pent, still uses the trekking poles, which is the universal system I use. I take my trekking poles everywhere with me. So that's much bigger. The good thing is the mesh can come out exactly like the Pt.2 does, so you can not use that, and also you can lift and tailor the tent in different ways. But it's big enough for me to be able to get in, put the sleeping kit on one side, and then struggle out of my motorcycle kit on the other side without trying to contort myself and bend over and not bump into roofs and things. So that's the long-term strategy with that one. It'll take me about a year or so to save up for that. They're not the cheapest of tents, but I'm not a fan of Dyneema tents and all of those things. That's for the ultralight people, and I'm not an ultralight person. But anyway, that's really the overall view of everything. It gives you a picture of where I'm going and what I'm trying to do, and the equipment that I use. And again, it's don't rush out and buy everything. All of this stuff has taken me a good 7 years or so to buy, and I've bought a lot of junk that's broken, or that's filled a very niche period. And I've got a lot of old equipment that goes back 30 or 40 years, which has gradually been gracefully retired. And I've just been looking at things and going, yep, this is actually robust, it's multi-purpose, I can use it for different things, which is a need for me. It's modern, it fits in with the ecosystem, and I'm also starting to move towards sustainable stuff. A lot of this isn't, but it's made of, there's nylons and there's plastics and there's things, but there's a lot of recycled material here as well. So I'm starting to do that kind of thing. And also just gradually kind of repurpose what I do when I'm out hiking. What is the objective? Am I going out for a day walk just to relax? Am I going out day walk and do some fishing, river fishing, sea fishing? Am I going out in the canoe and I need to camp overnight? Is it motorcycle off-roading on the Triumph, which is kind of an oxymoron because it's not an off-road bike, but that's what I use it for. Am I going to do a base camp and then do some hiking overnight, for example, or do a trail, or millions of ones? Am I going to do bushcraft? Am I going to go out and take the binoculars out and do an overnight and watch the animals and the wild cats, which is what I study when I'm not working, and just all of the different things that I do, or just even have a holiday but on the beach, which was the last thing that I did. And all my kit kind of feeds into those activities, and eventually what I want to do is just go self-sustainable, cottage in the country type thing, off-grid, and do all of that stuff. So it's really good to have, probably what I call it, the permanent base camp. So that's really the overview. And this one's probably a little bit longer than it should have been, but it is what it is. I'll try and edit it down a little bit smaller. So that's it.